welcome to Siddhartha in a Car. My name is Donn Rochlin. This show is about those people who I've personally met on my journey of life, who've inspired me and enriched my life in some way. And through this program, I look forward to passing on some of that inspiration to you through music, engaging conversations, and some great stories. Today, my guest is Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation teacher, transformational sound practitioner, Celtic musician, storyteller, podcast host, and Ireland Journey facilitator, Ryan Powell. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, Don. It's so happy to be here.
Great to have you. I've been wanting to have this show with you for a long time. So, Ryan really epitomizes, what this show is all about. And so we're going to talk about that. Now, Ryan is certified by Qigong master Zhongshan Wu. He's traveled throughout China to connect more deeply with his lineage of his art, his teaching. He currently teaches in his studio in Portland and maintains a schedule of gigs throughout the area, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And Ryan really epitomizes this show because, when I walk into Ryan's class and when I'm around Ryan, I feel my blood pressure, my pressure, everything just kind of go down about 50 decimals. So he really represents to me that calming, beautiful energy and strength. And we're going to talk about that. Ryan, I think we met about 10 years ago, and I was thinking about this. I remember taking a walk with my daughter on I think it was the Alberta Street Fair in Alberta, and ran into you, I think, with your wife and your son. I think that's how we met, and then I ended up taking some classes, or it may have worked in reverse. I took classes. Do you really have any recollection of how that happened?
Well, I recall that walk. I recall meeting you, my friend, and it's one of those kind of instant recognition moments. And if I was with my son, he must have been a little infant, a little tiny, because he's almost going to turn 11 now. But Alberta is such a vortex, and you just tend to kind of meet who you're supposed to meet along the way.
Okay, I think that's how it happened. And I know I connected with your energy right away. And, I was pretty new to Portland at that time, and I did want to reconnect with my Tai Chi practice. So it was perfect. So, about 10 years now. So Ryan really epitomizes what this program is about. Those people have inspired me on my journey. And like I said, the thing about him is his instant calming energy is calm and peaceful, but it's rooted in a power and a strength, which is prevalent in his presence when you get around him. And I really got a sense of this in the class, because that's what you teach, So you teach like the art itself, with phrasing and beauty and imagery and silence. And so coming to your class, I got more than just a Tai Chi lesson. I got a whole experience of a lifestyle. And so I'm glad you're here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for sharing that, Don.
Okay, so there's some things we never talked about. I've known you for all these years, but don't know a lot about you personally. I did enjoy a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family that's already about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
By the way, I wanted to announce today is a very auspicious day. It's interesting that we're doing this interview. 17 years ago today, I became a dad right on this day.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, whoa. So
happy birthday, Dad.
Thank you very much. I know you're Dad, so.
Yeah. It's a deep journey, isn't it?
It is. Isn't it something? So there's a couple of shows, couple episodes we're going to do on that eventually. It is
good.
So Ryan, what inspired you to become a martial artist, teacher, musician, and what came first? Were you a musician? It morphed into teaching? Was it the other way around? How did you start out?
Oh, that's such a good and deep question. It's when it's something like being a musician or being a teacher of something. It's almost like, at least in my experience, that we're born knowing that. It's something that we carry over from lifetime to lifetime, and it just starts to kind of open up like a flower throughout life. Sometimes it closes up again, but then it opens. So the path of, I'd say, musician came first, but I was kind of an interesting kid. I was a very quiet kid. I moved around a lot. I went to 9 different schools, so I kind of became very self-contained. and because I knew like I was going to move somewhere else next year anyway. So kind of became my own best friend. And I used to have an experience, maybe my first real formative experience that I can remember is when I was around 7. And I was living in Denver, Colorado at the time, and I would go out into the backyard in the evening, and I would just stand out there, and this is a game I would play. And now I look back and I see that that was really my first mystical experience. But I would go out into the backyard and I would look out into the stars and I would just play this game with myself. Who am I? Who am I?
Wow.
And I would kind of laugh and I'd say, oh, I'm not Ryan. No, I'm not that name. Who am I? Oh, I'm not that voice in my head. That's not it. Who am I? I'm not just this body. Nope. And I would kind of challenge myself to go as deep as I can. And I would get to the point where it would feel like I would just expand out into the stars, and I would get dizzy and fall down. And then I'd stand up, go play with my toys. It's just a game. It's like, oh, that's my fun who am I game. But now kind of looking back, I see that was me kind of in my remembering process. And I think we all go through that at some point on some level. Yeah. Kind of like looking through the veils of the onion, like who am I really? So as a 7-year-old, I would play that game, and that feeling of that experience stuck with me as I traveled. And when I became a teenager, I started to learn about meditation. I first read about Taoism from the Tao of Pooh when I was about 14.
The Tao of Pooh, yeah.
Wonderful book, Benjamin Hoff. And as soon as I started to read about the philosophy of Taoism, it wasn't like I was learning something from the outside, but it was just reminding me of what I already knew. So I said, oh yeah, of course that's how life works. Of course, that makes perfect sense. I already knew that. So it was kind of this process of that, that seed of who am I kind of started my meditation journey, which then led to my Qigong journey. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the musical part also came in, and that comes more through my Celtic lineage, my ancestors from Scotland, from England, Ireland, Switzerland, Sweden. And so as a young child, my dad would sing Irish ballads in the car. My dad, his name's John, had this great baritone voice, and he would sing these deep ballads, Rosin the Bow, and all these great old songs, and we would pretend to hate it, but we really loved it. And all of those songs kind of became part of my DNA. It felt like they just became part of me. And again, it was reminding me of something, because that's where my ancestors come from. So these songs, of course, are resonating in my spiritual consciousness, in my ancestral memory. So I started to play the tin whistle. I picked up the tin whistle and I started to play melodies on the whistle. I was lucky to go to Ireland first when I was in high school in the late 80s on a family trip just for a week, and had such a deep experience and such a deep remembrance that, going to Ireland for me was kind of like stepping into a mossy bed of home. It felt like that, like a welcoming energy. I've traveled other places where I felt like a humble visitor to this Mayan pyramid. This is not my lineage. I know that. Right. And I'm a humble visitor to this powerful energy of this place. But when I go over to Ireland, it's like, yes, this is home. Yeah. So it's more like you come inside and then you experience the land from the inside rather than visiting from the outside.
Right. It sounds like you share a lot of that too in your tours to Ireland or southwestern Ireland.
Exactly. Yep. That is the feeling that I want to share, and that is the whole meaning of that trip for me, is to bring people home. Say, come home. It's not such a touristy trip where we're learning all of the history, and of course that's part of it. But the deeper intention of the trip is to come to Ireland. And we'll breathe together. We'll do Qigong every morning to open ourselves to the journey. And then we'll go out and we'll take walks, we'll take hikes, and we'll connect with the living energy of the landscape. Because in all the Celtic mythology, the divinity was in the land. It was the landscape itself. The goddess was the island.
Right.
So when you walk through the landscape, it changes your consciousness, it changes your heart. You have experiences of remembrance and healing just by taking a silent walk. So we
Yeah.
go and we touch the stones and just feel, a standing stone. Just place your palms on that stone. What is the transmission? What's the direct message?
Yeah. It's interesting. It leads right into my next question. Within the work that you do, what is it that you want to express and portray to the world? And I think you've said it, I think that whole idea of what you said of coming home is a metaphor to coming home in consciousness to who you really are, that experience you had when you were 7 years old. And I definitely get a sense of that and in your classes and in your energy and in your music. It's like, helping people get back to their true nature,
Exactly. That's the core of all of it right there. Like that is if there's one thing I wanted to share is that all of the things that I do in my life all point to the same place.
Absolutely.
I go to senior homes and I teach gentle Tai Chi and meditation to 95-year-olds. And then I teach kids, martial arts, and I teach all ages Qigong, standing meditation, breath work. And I play music. And all of these things, to me, are always opening a path back to the home within the body.
Absolutely.
Back to our spiritual home.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's where the inspiration comes from for me, that as soon as I realized that there is a home, and I looked into the world and our society, and so many people are walking around homeless.
Everyone is
interesting. Homeless. They're wandering. Their mind is wandering into the future, into the past. They're just worrying about the 10,000 things.
I was just having this conversation with a friend this morning about, I love that metaphor because, she's talking about some problem in Portland, and then, I just ran into a woman from Damascus yesterday and the war over there. And I thought, you know what? It's a misidentification problem. We can try and solve it from the outside, but it's a misidentification problem. It's coming from greed and fear, all of these things.
Right.
So we have to address the root of that, which is knowledge of who we really are, I believe.
I believe
so. Yeah, you're absolutely doing it. So, has there been some moments for you of, I guess you'd call them darkness, where you doubted your path and you doubted what was going on and it just didn't seem like things were moving?
100% yes, of course. Especially on the strange and winding path that I've taken. It's, I think that having doubt is just part of being human. And I think it can be a gift too, because it helps us dig deeper into our resources. So yes, I've had times, when I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree in English literature, had no idea what I was going to do with it.
Right.
I went to go work at restaurants and coffee shops. And it was during this time that I found my first Qigong teacher. This was back in the mid-90s. And a friend of mine had been doing this strange thing called Qigong. Qigong. With a Tibetan teacher. So I said, well, I have no idea what that is, but I felt somewhere in my soul that I should go engage with this. So I went to the classes and I worked with this teacher for a couple of years. And I started to see that this wasn't my lifelong teacher. So I, stepped out after a couple of years of working with him but continued the practice on my own. Until I found Master Wu, who became my lineage master.
Yeah, he's something. I remember going to a workshop when you had him come out, and I couldn't believe it. I thought this guy was 20 years old or something.
I know. You think of a Master Wu, and you think of the gray beard,
you're right.
Gray hair.
Yeah,
and he's just a few years older than me, really. Yeah.
That was amazing.
But that's somebody who is, since the age of 6, has been able to engage in his early life in China to meet different masters. He healed himself as a very frail young boy by working with local masters, and then he too had that knowledge that this his dharma, was his path to absorb as much of this ancient wisdom as possible in order to share it in a very clear, grounded way. Because these lineage streams, they're frail. So if people stop practicing, if we don't put in the time to practice, then it's just gonna
fade away,
disappear into the mists.
So, this is what I love about the metaphor. For me, Tai Chi.
Absolutely. I had so much pressure from different people to just go into society, follow the stream. So speaking of having doubts in life, I think it's a really important point to look at, that we all have these feelings, and to kind of understand, how they can become our allies, and how they can teach us. That there's kind of a thought that the Tao, the path, is a stream. And when you step into the stream, you just follow the stream, flow downwards. That's not quite the deeper understanding. So we can think of that stream as our society.
Yeah.
And so the Tao is stepping into that stream and moving upstream. So you have to go against the flow of society in order to return to the root, the source of the water, which is where our true self resides.
Right.
And so that takes work. And with that work, which is why Qigong means working with energy. Kung Fu means hard work. So all of these practices have work as their essential, because it's not just going with the flow. That's that's the easy way. We step in and we do what society wants, and we live a life until we retire, and we, retire and die. So that's that kind of easy path. So the path of cultivation has a lot of challenges and a lot of doubts. And there's an old saying that the Tao is 1 foot high, but our resistance to the Tao is 10 feet high.
Yeah.
So that is the effort that it takes to work with those doubts, to kind of keep going. When you know something is true for yourself, you know that in your heart, in your soul, then to stand your sacred ground, to take one step at a time upstream until you reach the source of that water.
Yeah. And that's what I love about that whole metaphor. For me, Tai Chi, I took your Tai Chi, but the taking in of the adversity, flipping it around, so that it does become easy. We're just taking it in, but it's the resistance where we get blocked. But what I've learned from you in Tai Chi and Qigong is how to bring that in, embrace it, turn it back out, and release it.
Right.
And there's just such a beauty and a flow into that, of all those martial arts. So
absolutely. Yeah. The deeper understanding of the martial arts is that it's the path of the art of peace. So it's not about fighting. It's not about hurting others.
Let's talk about that for a second, because my next question leads into, what would you say to the youth coming up, people that want to maybe teach this, or just kids coming up in general? But a lot of kids want to get into karate. They want to just get out there, and they've seen the movies, and they want to beat up people and all that. And we've talked about in class the hard forms and the soft forms. Can you address that a little bit, the difference between those, and what you might say to a young person who wants to start a path of martial arts?
Absolutely. I think that if you have a good teacher, martial arts is a wonderful practice for youth, for everyone, really. I think it's a kind of an essential life training. So speaking of the hard and the soft, or I would say the external and the internal martial arts, the external martial arts are about developing strength and speed. So how hard can you hit? How fast can you block? How hard can you kick? Strength and speed. And there's definitely a time and place for that training. And it's really great for a lot of kids to go through that type of karate training, because they're learning to strengthen their body. They're developing self-confidence through the ability to learn how to block, how to take a blow. That's one important martial arts element, is to be able to be hit without freezing up. So it's okay to get hit. We can take that. We can learn how to move with that and to work with that energy. And so in a lot of the more external martial arts training, you're working with a partner a lot, you're boxing, you're kicking, and all of that can really help to develop a strong sense of both kind of personal power and an ability to stabilize yourself in the body.
Yeah.
So great practices. If the teacher is good, there's all types of teachers out there. So you got to find a good teacher. Yep. The internal martial arts are time and space. So it's a little bit of a different feeling. It's about time and space. So it's not necessarily being about the strongest and fastest, but breathing into your center and knowing the right moment to spiral, to shift the hips to the left. And where is that space? If you turn just right and you're holding the elbow and the wrist, then that 200-pound person will just flow right by you onto the ground, back into the river. So that's more about self-knowledge, knowing your own center, knowing about spirals, about subtle movements, about breath work. So to me, the internal martial arts is very much a personal spiritual cultivation practice.
This is perfect because, I haven't studied with you in a long time. COVID, I moved, a lot of different things, but I want to address this and share this with the audience because even though I'm not coming to see you personally, there are three things, three things that I do almost.
Three's a good number.
Huh?
Three is a good number.
The power of three is what I'm working with on everything now. In my business and my life. It keeps it simple and it keeps it manageable.
Aye.
Writing especially. Just three things, three things, 3 lines, 3 sentences. So 3 things that I do almost daily that I've learned, and I would love it if you could just elaborate a little bit on them. One of the techniques that you taught us, and even though I don't quite understand it, it works for me, where we put our tongue behind front of our teeth. And I notice when I do that, when I'm in traffic, when I'm in a stressful situation, it forces me to breathe. It relaxes my jaw, and it's just an instant thing that happens with that technique. So what is that exactly, and why is that happening for people that might want to adopt this?
Wonderful. So that technique is called connecting the Magpie Bridge.
Okay.
And the tongue is called the Magpie Bridge. And what is happening there is that the tongue touching the top roof of the mouth is like plugging in a circuit. So we have this rotation of energy within our body called the microcosmic orbit.
Yeah.
And that flows from the dantian, the lower belly, down through the perineum, up the back, through the shoulder blades, along the top of the head. And then it returns in a loop down the front, back to the dantian. So dantian is the center. It's our home within the body, called the elixir field.
Right.
So most people have way too much stagnation in the head in our society. There's way too much thinking and worrying, and it's kind of like an iron lollipop where the iron head is at the top of the stick and there's a very skinny stick below. So we have a very top-heavy society, especially in the West here. So part of that is that the energy rises up the back and then it reaches the head, but it doesn't have anywhere to return. So when we lift the tongue and touch the top roof of the mouth behind the teeth, we're plugging in the circuit, and right away, everything that is stagnating up here can start to flow down.
So it completes a circuit.
It completes a circuit. Exactly.
How we complete the circuit.
Yep.
Beautiful technique, and I noticed it right away. And then another one, of course, speaking of dantian in our center, walking, because that's one thing I do on a regular basis when I'm not doing my other exercising thing, but walking all the time. But how to walk. And I remember a story you were talking about. It was either a teacher of yours or a master that you had met, taking a hike with a bunch of much younger people who couldn't keep up with them. What's wrong with you people? Why you're so wimpy? And he all had to do with walking from the core. And so when I walk, I'll actually stop a lot of times, readjust, focus on my core, and it instantly just aligns everything. Everything drops and relaxes. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, maybe even demonstrate that for people that walk, because it changes your whole experience with walking.
Right. So the story is great that you were telling of. It was actually a fairly well-known Tai Chi teacher from the West who came to China, and Master Wu was asked to give him the tour of Huashan, Flower Mountain. Yeah. And Master Wu thought he's a well-known Tai Chi master. He'll do great. And they start hiking, and after about 10 minutes, this guy's ready for a break. Steep hills and thousands of steps, and Master Wu's just going. And then, he was getting a little exasperated because, this guy is supposedly, the Tai Chi master, but he doesn't know how to hike.
He does not hike.
So there was just a missing piece there, I feel like. And in our practice, we have a walking Qigong where we focus on 4 points at once as we're walking. And one is feeling a gentle lifting from the perineum. So like your perineum is right between the anus and genitals, gently drawing up that point.
Right. At
the same time, feel the hair at the top of your head gently lifting up. Yeah. So the perineum is considered the most important aspect in our practice. This is where we leak most of our life energy. So we learn to gently draw up, kind of like the Kegel exercise, to strengthen that root muscle so that we're not always just leaking our energy downwards. So that's the other pair. To the tongue is the top, the perineum is the bottom. Those are the two circuits.
Work together.
So for the walking, lifting the perineum, and then a cord pulling forward from the center of the chest, pushing back behind the navel.
Oh, I use the cord. I imagine a cord coming from my dantian, kind of pulling out. So
that's another aspect, another way you can do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But generally, I'll do a little demonstration since you asked that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. That's great.
So the idea with walking is that you want to have a sense of being rooted and dropped, have that sense of being pulled forward, pushed forward, and lifted up.
Yeah.
These 2 points. And the feeling is that you're gripping with your toes and pulling your center forward. So you have more of a pulling rather than the pattern most of us have is pushing off from the back foot, catching our...
Yeah. Oh, come on, please. Don't do this now.
Ourselves on the front.
Yeah.
We have this kind of drop into our center, feel the core here, that forward, and then we grip with our toes, pull ourselves. It's a much more stable way of moving.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I noticed, of course, in the West, people walk, they lean. You know, they're leaning. They have somewhere to get to quick.
Always leaning. Yep.
Always leaning.
Yeah, that head is so heavy, and
that head is so heavy.
So they have all this weight over their center.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So always think about upright. Yeah,
right now, you know, it's a thing, especially when you play so the piano, that the tendency is to lean and hunch.
Yeah.
Instead of pulling back. So
hunch, guitar, same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, a lot of instruments. So it's a beautiful reminder. And the third thing I wanted to address is the mantra that you always tell us is the slow way is the fast way. And, you know, this is great for musicians as well as everybody else, but we're practicing a line, we're practicing some changes, and, you know, but to slow it down, break it down, and that is the fast way because it absorbs into the subconscious a lot faster. What could you say with that about that, and if for musicians, for artists, for people in life in general?
Yeah, I mean that understanding is relevant for anything we do in life, anything we learn, and the understanding is that our body is very wise. Our body can learn all kinds of things, can hold so much information. It can hold hundreds of movements, but it's a slow learner.
Yeah.
So our body, when we're learning an instrument, when we're doing a Tai Chi form, when we're learning anything new, then the body likes to repeat. Slow down, and repeat. Our mind doesn't like that. Our mind thinks we can get it just like that. It's like, oh, I can play that instrument, no problem. But the body says, well, slow down.
It's so interesting.
The mind come back to the body.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to not believe it. I would be learning a lick. I could do it real fast. But the thing is, I couldn't repeat it, or I couldn't remember it a week later. It was, you know, got it once because I just wasn't thinking about it and it came. Yep. But I couldn't do it on demand and I couldn't repeat it because it wasn't locked in.
Right. It's a whole different part of the consciousness we're using. Yeah. Like when I am memorizing a Scottish ballad that has 12 verses, it's a similar thing. It's like I can sing a song, I can sing it if I have the words right there, but to memorize it is a whole other level.
It's the whole thing.
And then I have to slow down and I have to tell myself, okay, now I'm shifting into learning this song. Exactly. I'm not just playing it, I'm learning it. And it takes much longer, but I slow down and I repeat each line again and again. Yeah. And then the body,
Is that the difference between just doing it and knowing it by feel?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly how I do it in my music is write it, but then commit it to memory and then know it. Know how everything feels under the fingers.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if you're Alex Honnold. Do you know Alex Honnold who free soloed El Capitan?
I don't.
Oh no. Oh well, this is another show. He's all over YouTube. Okay. But you know, the record was 3 weeks or something, and Alex Honnold free soloed that thing in 3.5 hours. He's off the charts. But this is what he said, because he was so close to death every second of the way. But he had done over 50 climbs with the ropes until he had that mountain totally memorized and knew where everything was. Right. And he said, no, I wasn't afraid the day I did it because I knew it. It's like, whoa.
Right.
It's amazing.
And that's, you know, as a musician or a performer, like once you embody it like that, and same thing as doing a Tai Chi form, doing a martial arts form, once you embody it, then it's like, it becomes real. It's not really real until that point where it's part of your cells and you can express it from the inside out. And then it will be felt and received on a whole different level.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this has been great, Ryan. We're running out of time here. So I just wanted to find out, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you, take classes, hear your music?
Oh, thanks. So my website is www.qiofsound.com, and that's a QI of
QI,
sound.
everyone. Yeah, I know.
QI. Info@qiofsound.com is the email address you can reach me at.
Okay.
And yeah, you can come. I do 2 Zoom classes each week, Pacific time, 11 a.m. Tuesday and Friday. And you can sign up on my website. And even if you live in England, and the timing doesn't work for you, you still get a recording of the class, and you can practice on your own for a week after the class happens.
Okay.
So everyone is welcome to come try out the practice, see how it feels. For some people, it's like coming home right away, and some people are like, oh, that's too
yeah, my first Tai Chi class was, whoa, hang on a second.
And that's
years.
It's different. It's very different than how we're used to moving and breathing.
It's beautiful, though. Well worth it.
So, yeah. And my podcast, the podcast about emptiness, please come listen.
Check out Ryan's podcast. Yeah, I was listening the other day.
Yep.
Well, can you talk just briefly, too, about your 14-day curated, and I had to look that up, curated journey to southwestern Ireland. So what can people experience on your tour to Ireland?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
It's pure magic when we come to Ireland with a group that tends to gather and doing the spiritual work that we do, doing our Qigong to clear ourselves out every morning, and walking through the land with such of honoring of place and of the people. It's like magic just comes out of the woodwork. People come to guide us on to the next synchronistic moment. But we explore the southwest of Ireland, from southern Connemara through the Aran Islands down the shore to Dingle, which is my heart home over there. I just love Dingle.
Yeah.
If I lived in Ireland, I would live in
That's
Dingle.
where you'd be. Yeah.
Yep. Down to Kenmare, the nest of Ireland, and we explore magic all throughout there. We take hill walks, hikes. In the evenings, we have fun in the pubs. You know, it's not all serious. We got to have some revelry.
Yeah, some balance.
The music and some fun. So,
oh man!
But it's
it's all on your website.
It's all on my website. Yeah, you can find it all there.
Yeah, so check that out if you're interested. That sounds great.
Yeah, thanks, Donn.
Love to do that. We're gonna wrap it up here. So Ryan, we have a special treat for you. Ryan is gonna play us out with this original composition.
Original, yeah, this one.
Okay, and the title?
Only in the Darkness.
Only in the Darkness. Okay, Ryan, this is great.
This is a good song for this time of year for me, and kind of to honor the light that we find when we close our eyes and we go within our own consciousness, our own body. You know, it seems dark, but there's the real light is in there. You can find me if you need me, at the outskirts or the center of the sphere. And if you find me, then please remind me No matter where I roam, no matter where I travel, I am home. No matter where I wander, no matter where I roam, no matter where I travel, I am home. In the distance, there's a harbor. Ship at anchor. The sun goes down, 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 down. It's time to rest now. Till tomorrow. Ship awakens at first light, stares across the sea, opens up her sails and she is free. Ship awakens at first light, stares across the sea, opens up her sails and she is free. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding, ding. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding, ding. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding. 'Cause only in the darkness, only in the darkness can I see the light. 'Cause only in the darkness, only in the darkness can I see the light. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding. 'Cause only in the darkness, only in the darkness can I see the light. Ba-da-ding, ding, ding. Only in the darkness, only in the darkness can I see the light.
Whoa. Oh, let's just take a minute. That was beautiful. Well, that just took me right to the coastline somewhere. I think it was Ireland.
Most likely, my friend.
Oh, beautiful, Ryan. Thank you for sharing that with
Well,
us.
thanks for having me, Donn. This has been
Yeah.
such a pleasure to connect with you here. And to-
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to doing it again
conversation.
sometime. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I just want to leave you with this. I actually found this on a post that you did on Facebook. And it says, "The great way is easy, yet people prefer side paths. Be aware when things are out of balance. Stay centered within the Tao." Tzu. And I think that really epitomizes what you teach, how you teach, everything about you, is balance. Balance. So thank you for being with me today, sharing with the audience.
So much.
And,
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And
look
thank
forward
you,
to
Donn.
doing it next time.
Blessings, my friends.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining in, everyone. If you'd like to stay in touch and updated about future programs and events, please check out my website and leave your email address. If you'd like to support this program, my music, workshops, and other events, see the link below and check out the benefits you'll receive by becoming a patron. Meanwhile, I wish you maximum creativity, power, and love. See you next time.